What's up everyone, TechCloud here, and in this video I'm going to compare the displays of the three latest Android flagships available in the market, which is Sony Xperia Z2, Samsung Galaxy S5 and HTC One M8. At the moment all three phones are at max auto brightness, as you can see here. In a nicely bright lit room, the Samsung Galaxy S5 is brighter than the Z2 from front on, and also the viewing angle looks better on S5. Things do change a little bit when we put the Z2 in max brightness, not just on the auto brightness. Same is the case here. If we compare the S5 with the HTC One, then S5 again looks brighter from front on, and even it seems to have better viewing angle as well. When we compare the Z2 and the HTC One M8 in max auto brightness, from front on HTC One M8 looks brighter, and the viewing angle also look better on HTC One M8. But we will see what happens after we put the phones in max brightness instead of auto brightness. Putting all three phones side by side, and it will show you that the better viewing angles are available on S5. So now let's turn off the auto brightness, and as you can see right away the Z2 was brighter than before. Same thing I'm going to do on HTC One M8 and as well as the S5, and let's see how they look from front on now. And as you can see now, the Z2 is considerably brighter and you can see the grid lines much clearer now. HTC One M8 still feels a little bit brighter, and the viewing angles are still better on HTC One M8. And when we throw in the S5 in the comparison as well, you will find that the S5 is having better viewing angles. Thankfully, this time there is no visible black clipping on the AMOLED screen of S5. Like the Z2, S5 also has the larger than sRGB color gamut. On the other hand, HTC One M8 has less color gamut, but still it is actually covering the sRGB, which is pretty good. Just like S5, the Z2 also has larger than sRGB color gamut, but this also make the color saturation management little bit tricky on both Z2 and S5. There is no built-in color saturation control in the Android. The larger color gamut on the Z2 and some saturation setting actually has made the Z2 to saturate the reds and the magenta, the violets. These are very saturated as compared to a nice calibrated screen. Although HTC One M8 has sRGB gamut, which is good, but the strange gamma settings and saturation settings has made HTC One M8 less suitable for the video and the photo viewing, because the skin tones will not be as good. So in order to make a comparison, I have to bring in a well calibrated screen, and at the moment Nexus 5 is the most accurately calibrated screen. However, I don't have Nexus 5, so let's bring in iPhone 5s, which is also very close to Nexus 5. So let's compare the iPhone 5s and the HTC One M8, and as you can see right away the skin tones looks yellow on HTC One M8, whereas this is not the case on iPhone 5s. I have actually purposely selected the photos which will highlight the problems with each display. If you look at the background, it is also oversaturated on HTC One M8, and again the skin tones you can see is yellow, which is making the photos less appealing on HTC One M8. And this problem is very apparent when you watch photos taken under the tungsten lighting, or warmer tone photos such as sunset or other photos. The colors are also more saturated on HTC One, such as the purple, green and red, whereas the blue are actually having slightly different tones than on iPhone 5s. So let's compare the Sony Xperia Z2 with iPhone 5s. As you can see now, the skin tones are little bit less yellow than the HTC One M8. However, at times there are different problems with the Z2 because Z2 actually favors red more than the other calibrated screens. So in these photos you will find little bit of hint of reddish tones, but not as much. But I will show you some other photos where the reddish tones are more apparent. If you look at the car closely, then you will see that on Z2 it is more saturated as compared to iPhone 5s. It's bright red, whereas on iPhone 5s it's slightly towards orange. It is showing a less difference on the camera, but in person the difference is much more. Beside this flaw, still the Z2 screen is pretty compelling and looks good. And it is more suitable for photos and movies as compared to HTC One M8. This purple, magenta, the reds, greens are very saturated on Z2 as compared to iPhone 5s. So let's now compare the 5s with S5, and as you can see, the photos will look pretty close to each other because the S5 screen is currently in the cinema mode. In cinema and professional photo mode, S5 screen is pretty close to 5s, and the photos and the movies looks pretty natural and much more closer to what they should be. Having said that, the S5 screen is even also not 100% calibrated, but it does the job well as compared to other two screens, which are Z2 and HTC One M8. As you can see, once again the skin tone looks pretty close to natural. As far as the color comparison is concerned, then I have noticed that all colors looks pretty similar to 5s. However, the greens are a little bit more saturated and the blues are a little bit less saturated. Let's compare the S5 with the Z2, and at times you can see under the tungsten lighting the picture still can look little bit yellow on Z2, but not as yellow as the HTC One M8. As far as the color comparison is concerned, then the reds and also the magenta, purple are more saturated on the Z2, and the greens are equally saturated, whereas blues on Z2 has a different tone. Notice the reddish tone on the face. Look at the shirt and the background, it is more saturated on Z2. The reason being because the magentas and the purples, reds are more saturated on Z2. So let's compare the HTC One M8 with the S5, and once again the yellow skin tones are apparent, and as well as the magenta background is more saturated on HTC One. Let's compare the Z2 with the HTC One M8, and you can see the purple shirt is more saturated on Z2 as well as the magenta background, whereas the skin tones are yellowish on HTC One M8 and the reddish slightly on Z2. But to me the Z2 is much more bearable and less noticeable as compared to strange tones of HTC One M8. HTC One M8 does not show these yellow tones on all the photos. I mean, these are especially under the tungsten lighting or the warm photos such as the sunset or the pictures taken of the subjects which has specific kind of whitish tones. As far as the color comparison is concerned, the Z2 has the saturated magentas, purple, violets, and green, and as well as the reds. Blues looks similar on both, but the blue is not accurate on both. Notice how the skin tone looks different on each device. The HTC One M8 favoring the yellows and the Z2 favoring the reddish tones. Again, you can see M8 favoring yellow, Z2 favoring red. Viewing angle again looks better on S5. Whereas M8 has slightly better viewing angles than the Z2. Once again, you can see the skin tones on S5 are closer to 5S. So guys, this was the comprehensive comparison of all three screens, and by now I hope that you have a fair bit of idea that what are the shortcomings of each screen. None of the three screens are 100% accurately calibrated. Having said that, I will rate S5 as the better calibrated screen as compared to the other screens. But I find the Z2 screen is still very usable and I don't have any problem watching photos and videos on that screen. However, I don't like the skin tones on HTC One M8. So guys, I hope that you have liked the video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to give the thumbs up to the video. Take care. Bye.